As a support worker, you know even the small challenges, like opening a jar or reaching a shelf, can become barriers for independence for older adults. But with the right tools, those barriers don't need to stay in the way. In this video, we'll show you a handful of practical tools you can start using today. No referral needed to make a real difference in the lives of the people you care for. This is a self-tipping kettle. A common barrier that people experience in their kitchen is lifting heavy objects, with the kettle generally being one of the more unsafe objects to lift, as it does have boiling water. A really simple yet effective tool is a self-tipping kettle. So it really does take all of the force of gravity out of it, and it's just action by a simple push of the wrist rather than a lift and a turn of the wrist, which can create a bit of issues for people's wrists, particularly those with osteoarthritis or similar conditions. Now, this is a really effective tool for those sort of kitchen-based tasks. As you can see, it's got a border that allows you to place a piece of bread or toast into that corner to hold it, allowing you to butter it with one hand. We've also got a vegetable spike or holder here, allowing you to stab down something like a potato or an apple, allowing you to safely cut that using only one hand. We do also have a jar holder, so it allows you to open the jar yourself using only a small amount of force, because we're not needing to stabilize the jar itself. Now over here, it's a vegetable scrub, so in the same way we may have difficulty scrubbing a vegetable, holding it with one hand and scrubbing it with the other. This allows you to do it just using one hand. Now, this is a grater, obviously. It allows you to grate something like a carrot. It does come out, or alternatively, you can just lift it up to gather what you've grated afterwards. This is an automatic jar opener, and we've also just got a more basic rubber jar opener as well. Now, another very, very common barrier for people that are in the kitchen is opening jars, particularly ones that haven't been opened yet. So a tool like this can be really, really effective for those who have not got the ability to open a jar independently. The way it works is simply just by pressing a button once. Now, obviously, with it being a powered device, with the ideas of reablement in mind, we can build towards that independence by introducing an aid such as a rubber jar opener. Now, this basically just increases a lot of the friction in our hands, reducing the force that is required to actually lift the jar off. And then another option would be a rubber grounding mat. So this is really, really helpful for people who have a bit of difficulty maintaining that force through the jar to keep it in place as they're undoing the jar lid. Now, it really is as simple as a twist of the wrist. Now, there are a wide range of adapted kitchen tools. One common thing that you will see are knives with handles like this. Traditional knives, particularly for those people who have osteoarthritis in the wrist or similar conditions impacting their carpal tunnel, it can become very, very hard for them to move their wrist into a position like this, which is required to use a traditional style knife. When you keep your wrist in a neutral position like this, it reduces a lot of the strain that would be exerted on the wrist using a traditional style knife. And for the same purposes of these knives, this knife does reduce a lot of the tension through the wrist. The rocker really does use gravity and our body's weight to do that task for us. Obviously, if people have certain conditions such as tremors in their hand or severe osteoarthritis, controlling a sharp knife is quite a risk in the kitchen. This pretty much takes out a lot of that risk by having the knife on a hinge point and a pin, keeping it in place so it's not going to move out of the way. Low-cost assistive technologies can make everyday tasks safer and easier, helping your clients stay active and build confidence during reablement. These solutions aren't about long-term dependence. They're short to mid-term supports that promote recovery and independence. As a therapist that works within community aged care, one of the valued hobbies that people do have general challenges with would be completing their gardening. And as we know, for some people, gardening is their life. It can bring them a lot of joy and a lot of that sense of independence in being able to maintain and manage their own gardens. So one of the most common barriers that I come across in the space that I work is people suggesting that they have had to either really reduce their gardening or give it up altogether because of an inability to crouch or bend down. And this is where a tool like this can come in really handy. So this is a garden kneeler. It's obviously got a seat that can support body weight. So if I was needing to sit down to help me prune my roses or manage the mulch in my garden, this is a really safe and soft platform that I can complete that action using. Or alternatively, it does also offer the ability to flip up, has armrests so you can safely lower yourself down to the ground, and it's got some really thick and soft pad which reduces a lot of the force that we're exerting through our knee joints, while also providing the armrest to safely support you in standing back up from an aid like this. Now, we do also have aids like this to showcase. Now, as you can see, the handle is quite similar to the kitchen knives. It is the exact same principle in that the traditional aids generally require a movement of the wrist that puts it into quite a straining position, where a handle like this tends to alleviate a lot of that strain, supporting people's independence and also to gain back a lot of the enjoyment that comes with gardening. As we know, it is such a valued hobby for a lot of people. Now, if we do say have the inability to bend, something like this isn't going to be very helpful unless we do have an aid like the garden kneeler. But this is where something like a long-handled aid of this version comes in really handy. It's exactly the same sort of tool, just with a much longer extension, allowing people to remain in a more upright position, given that they do have the standing balance to safely complete that task, just to keep doing what they're required to do. Now, another common concern that I hear raised quite often is an inability to actually keep a maintained grip on the objects or equipment that they are using within the garden. And this is where an holding aid can come in handy. Now, some people may need support from a family member or friend to actually get the aid on their wrist or in position. But the idea is that once it is in place, it really does to help maintain that grip, taking a lot of the strain and need to keep that position for the person out of it so they can continue on gaining the enjoyment from the garden without experiencing the strain or pain that comes with prolonged gardening. So this is obviously just a small range of a much wider range of gardening equipment that's out there. So if gardening is a passion of yours, go out and have a look at what's available. Now we're going to showcase some basic aids that can support reablement within the bathroom setting itself. So we do have a handheld shower hose on a height variance rail that is installed with a weight supporting grab bar. We also have a long-handled scrub sponge here and just a basic height adjustable shower stool here. Now, these would all work together if we are thinking of a reablement strategy for someone, for example, that is overcoming a knee surgery or a hip surgery. At least initially, when they're quite early on into their reablement, they would be seated with the handheld shower hose lowered to a point that they could shower underneath it. It also has the ability to be detached from the bar, allowing you to better maintain that independence within the bath, within the shower itself. And also, obviously, the scrub sponge can allow them to wash their lower limbs and also their back without needing to stand up or to move their shoulders into a uncomfortable position to reach themselves. Now, obviously, as we're building that independence and regaining our strength, with the idea of reablement is that we do eventually want to get rid of the equipment and simply By moving up the shower head like this does facilitate independent showering in standing while also providing a grab bar just to support that standing balance within the shower. A lot of the time people, particularly those who are regaining the confidence and independence in themselves after a significant surgery like a joint replacement, even something as simple as a light touch and that feeling of security in their own shower is huge. As you've seen, it doesn't take much to make a big difference. These small, low-cost tools can help older adults stay safe, independent and focused on rebuilding strengths, not just managing day-to-day challenges. And this is just a glimpse of what's possible. There are many more assistive technologies out there that can support short to mid-term reablement, and many of them can be purchased without a referral. Let's keep making the small things easier so the big things stay in focus.